It has been about a month since Netflix's long-running show came to a close at the end of 2025, but was it really the worst season? Hey, what's up guys? Alan here. Welcome to a very special episode of Thoughts on This. As for the first time ever, I'll be giving my thoughts on a series. But not just any series, the Netflix flagship series which recently ended its run this past New Year's Eve and celebrating its 10th anniversary later this summer. That's right, I'll be giving my thoughts on Stranger Things, but more specifically the 5th and final season. Set in Hawkins in 1987, 18 months after the events of the 4th season, the Hawkins crew band together on a mission to hunt and kill Vecna as the anniversary of Will Byers' disappearance approaches, all while the military quarantines the entire town to track down 11. Cast includes returning favorites Millie Bobby Brown, David Harbour, Gaten Matarazzo, Sadie Sink, and so much more. The season also features newcomers Nell Fisher and Jay Connolly, and veteran actor Linda Hamilton. The season was broken into 3 parts, with Volume 1 releasing on November 26, also known as American Thanksgiving, Volume 2 releasing on Christmas Day, and Volume 3, the finale, releasing on New Year's Eve. Now, what did I think about this series? Honestly, I thought the season was pretty solid. I was satisfied with it. And while there were some things that could have been better, everything that made the series a classic, from the suspense, the live action gore, the action, the drama, the comedy, 80s nostalgia, all of that was all jam-packed into the season. And it felt like an accumulation of all the previous seasons, which was pretty entertaining within itself. However, the season as a whole was a bit up and down. Volume 1 was jaw-dropping with that cliffhanger from episode 4 where Will gets his powers, which was the most epic moment of the season. Volume 2, on the other hand, was a little bit underwhelming. I wish there could have been more to hype up that finale, and the finale itself could have been better in terms of action and drama. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of action in the finale, especially in that big battle in the Abyss, but I felt like there was something missing in terms of raising the stakes. Like, I wish there was something more that they could have added to make it more action-packed, more dramatic, more suspenseful than it was. But regardless, everything else from the production value, character development, and emotional payoff was executed perfectly. I really enjoyed the premise for this season. It felt like Season 1, but with the addition of the Avengers-level threat from Season 4. The references to A Wrinkle in Time blends in with the storyline and Holly's own character arc, which I'm glad she had a bigger role this season. Also, the reveal about the Upside Down being a wormhole to different dimensions was fascinating. However, I wish they could have done more when it came to the high stakes level threats. Like, it would have been nice if we had a moment where the Abyss was nearly merging with the real world. I feel like that would have raised the stakes. But in terms of what we got, felt too safe. I also felt like the storyline with the military was a misfire. It was just a filler storyline that barely went anywhere. It was fine in the first couple of episodes, but there was no real payoff in the later episodes, especially in the finale where it was pushed off to the side. Dr. K had the potential to be the biggest threat other than Brenner and Vecna, but her development was underwhelming. I would have been fine with her just being straight up evil, but she was barely on screen in the final episode, and there was no recollection of what happened to her and the rest of the military afterwards. Overall, total waste of a character and storyline, even though I thought Linda Hamilton, a true 80s icon, did a fantastic job in the role. As for the rest of the cast, they all made the best of their time on the season. Each one had their moment at least once, despite the cast being convoluted. Joe Carey is charismatic as always as Steve Harrington, and I'm glad that he did not die in the end because he is one of the best characters of the entire series. He's charming, witty, and has a really fun dynamic between Robin and Dustin. Great character overall. Winona Ryder, another 80s icon, brought all the heart and determination in portraying Joyce, and she was paired nicely with David Harbour, who was caring and heroically badass as Jim. Also, I'm glad we finally got the payoff of them going to Enzo's. It was long overdue, and Jim finally proposing to Joyce was just the icing on the cake. Charlie Heaton and Natalia Dyer had great chemistry with each other, even though it's sad that their characters ended their relationship. Their performance in the breakup scene was emotionally satisfying, and their individual performances was equally wonderful. Maya Hawke added the funny and lighthearted moments in the series with her portrayal as Robin, plus her and Schnapp is a pairing that I didn't know I needed up until that season. I love that they were put together, and they also had wholesome chemistry. Priya Ferguson and Brett Gelman also made for the show's comedic moments as Erica and Murray. Even though they were just there and barely had screen time, they both made the most out of it. Cara Buono as Karen Wheeler was a surprise this season. Throughout the series, she always felt like a filler character that was barely integrated into the main plot, but this season gives her something more interesting, being the most underrated hero, and this was her best performance yet. Kali was the most interesting thing about the season, as nobody expected her to pop up after the Lost Sister episode, which everyone hated and everyone has seemed to forgot about her. I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like her or trust her, which I could understand, but I'm glad she came back this season. Having her back to the show added the drama and conflicts, and we finally get a payoff on the relationship between her and Eleven. Plus, Linnea Berthelsen did a great job. The core young actors definitely made the most out of it, given that they were the heart of the series since the beginning. Sadie Sink, despite being a later addition, continued to be a renaissance. Since season 4, she has connected with viewers through her performance and relatable character arc. I also thoroughly enjoyed her scenes with Fisher. I thought they made a surprisingly good pairing. It was wholesome. Gaten Matarazzo brought a more darker side to his character while still being the empathetic and lovable goofball that we knew and loved. His character arc is a perfect example of how grief can affect oneself. Caleb McLaughlin and Finn Wolfhard were nothing too special for me. McLaughlin's performance this season was still fine, but compared to season 4, it was a bit of a downgrade. But it doesn't excuse the fact that his character has had the best evolution out of all the core characters, other than Steve. His personality was different, he looked so mature, it felt like he was growing up before our eyes. Mike, on the other hand, stayed the same. He was a fine character, but I felt like he was just there to be everyone's support person that we haven't really seen him come into his own. He was awesome in the first season, but his character in terms of personality and scenarios he was given the rest of the seasons were repetitive. Like, he wasn't given any new material that individualized him other than being Elle's girlfriend and that guy in the friend group. But regardless, Wolfhard's performances was still pleasurable, and going off topic a bit, he did a great job hosting SNL a couple weeks ago. Millie Bobby Brown never disappointed. She was always the standout, but this season was a whole other level. She has showed how far her character has come and how she was really coming into her own. I loved the send-off they had for her near the end. I thought it was the right amount of emotion. Also, great use of the song Purple Rain. I wish her epilogue was a definitive ending instead of the Duffer Brothers letting us decide her fate, but I think most of us could agree that Mike's theory about her somewhere far away makes the most sense. But still, great performance by Brown throughout this whole season. She brought in all the emotion. I love that we had Will up front and center this season. He finally felt like part of the main cast, as opposed to just being a plot device. Since the 4th episode, he is becoming more and more of a standout character. I know a lot of people had problems with his coming out scene, that it was awkward and being in a form of a conference, which I can kind of agree with, but to me it was a tear-jerking and wholesome scene, plus the emotion felt authentic. You can feel the raw emotion that Noah Schnapp is emoting. It's telling that this was real for him, and this is by far Noah Schnapp's best performance in the entire series. Nell Fisher taking over the role of Holly Wheeler was the right decision. Fisher was remarkable in this role. She added a new side to Holly that we've never seen before. She literally went from a background character to a featured player. She was fierce, sympathetic, and grounded as the character. The arc and storyline she was given brought back the charm of season 1, and her and Sig had great chemistry with each other. And I know I just repeated myself, but you know what? It's true. Despite only appearing this season and having limited screen time, Jake Connolly added the comedic relief. I didn't really like him at first, but when he started to be more involved in the main plot, he became a true scene stealer. He stole the show every time he was on screen. And props to Jamie Campbell Bowers for his performance this season. He did a fantastic job with this character. I love that we see more of a human side of Vecna this season, while still being evil and scary. Great character, and he is gonna go down as one of the best TV villains in history. If there's one thing that this season excelled at was the emotional way throughout the season, specifically in that final scene of the last episode, was sentimentally heartwarming. For a season that was trying to give each character an emotional send-off, it did an incredible job at that. It hit all the right notes. You can just feel the emotion each of them brought into those last few minutes. It was touching. Just seeing how much they grew up all those years was moving, and that scene felt like everything had came full circle. The entire season had its flaws, but it was still compelling and heartwarming. The finale might have been a mixed bag, but for the most part, they got it right. It felt like the season went back to its roots of what worked and took it up a notch by adding strong bits from all the previous seasons. And I meant what I said in previous videos, that there were things I would have added to make it better, but it was still a satisfying and solid conclusion to a show that has been beloved for so many years. Alright, that sums up all of my thoughts on the final season of Stranger Things, and if you agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already subscribed, that would really mean a lot, and I will eventually have a review on the rest of the seasons later this year to celebrate the 10th anniversary, so be sure to look out for that. But for now, that's all I have to say, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!